r/ProRevenge. My brother's ex gave me a sledgehammer to destroy his new car. The sledgehammer was heavier than I expected. I stood there in Sarah's driveway, staring at the weapon she just pressed into my hands like it was a birthday present. 20 pounds of cold steel and worn wood, still warm from where she'd been gripping it. Behind me, her beaten-up Honda wheezed in the afternoon heat, trunk popped open to reveal bolt cutters, spray paint, and what looked like a crowbar. I bought it this morning, Sarah said, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. The guy at Home Depot asked what project I was working on. I almost told him demolition. She wasn't wrong. My little brother Jake's brand new BMW sat in the parking garage 3 blocks away, all $80,000 of midnight black perfection gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The same car he'd been posting all over Instagram for the past 2 weeks, captioned with shit like hard work pays off and living my best life. The same car that Sarah's life savings had paid for, though Jake's 12,000 followers didn't know that part. You sure about this? I asked, even though we both knew I'd already made my decision the moment I saw her crying outside my apartment at 6 a.m. Sarah laughed, but it came out cracked and bitter. Am I sure about destroying the car my ex-boyfriend bought with money he stole from me? Yeah, I'm pretty fucking sure. I'd known Sarah for 3 years, ever since Jake brought her home for Christmas dinner. Sweet, trusting Sarah who worked double shifts at the veterinary clinic to save up for the photography equipment she'd dreamed about since high school. Sarah who covered Jake's rent when he got laid off from his sales job, which I later found out meant he'd been sleeping with his manager's wife. Sarah who believed every lie, every excuse, every promise that he'd change. Until last month, when she found the texts. Not just evidence of Jake's latest affair, but months of him bragging to his buddies about how easy it was to manage her. Screenshots of him calling her pathetic, desperate, convenient. Plans to drain her savings account, the one she'd trustingly added his name to, and disappear with his new girlfriend to Miami. Which is exactly what he'd done. The account was joint, Sarah had explained through tears that morning, clutching a manila folder full of bank statements and printouts. Technically, he didn't steal anything. That's what the police said. That's what my lawyer said. Technically, I gave him permission to take everything I'd worked for. Technically. I hefted the sledgehammer, testing its weight. Sarah watched me with red-rimmed eyes that held something I'd never seen in her before. Not sadness. Not heartbreak. Something harder. He posted another picture yesterday, she said quietly. Him and Madison at some rooftop bar, champagne glasses, designer clothes. The caption said grateful for new beginnings. 1,200 likes. I knew the post. I'd seen it, along with the comments from our relatives praising Jake for getting his life together and finding someone who appreciates him. None of them knew about Sarah's empty bank account or the job applications scattered across her kitchen table because she couldn't afford her apartment anymore. Sarah pulled out her phone and showed me Jake's location. Still at work, 45 minutes away minimum. The parking garage camera's been broken for 2 months, she said. I checked. I looked at the sledgehammer again. At Sarah's face. At the evidence folder that proved my brother was exactly the person I'd always feared he was. Let's go. The parking garage smelled like motor oil and regret. Sarah's Honda coughed to a stop on the second level, and we both sat there for a moment, engine ticking in the silence. Through the concrete pillars, I could see Jake's BMW parked in its usual spot, Section B, Space 47, positioned so he could make a dramatic exit onto 5th Street where everyone could see him. There, Sarah whispered, pointing unnecessarily. The car looked even more obscene in person. Pristine black paint that probably cost more than most people's annual salary, chrome details that caught the dim garage lighting like jewelry. The vanity plate read King, Jake King, because of course it did. He'd always thought he was royalty. I gripped the sledgehammer tighter, but something twisted in my stomach. This was my brother's car. My brother who used to build blanket forts with me, who cried when our dog died, who called me when he was scared about starting his first job. My brother who had systematically destroyed every woman stupid enough to love him. Second thoughts? Sarah asked, reading my face. Before I could answer, a security guard rounded the corner. Shit. I shoved the sledgehammer down beside my seat as a heavy-set man in a rumpled uniform approached us. He looked bored rather than suspicious, but my heart hammered against my ribs. You ladies need help finding something? He asked, leaning against Sarah's driver's side window. Just leaving, Sarah said smoothly. My friend wanted to see the car my ex bought with my money before I called my lawyer about it. The guard's expression shifted, suddenly interested. Oh yeah? Which one? The BMW. The one that should have my name on the title, considering I paid for it. I watched the security guard's face change as Sarah's story registered. His boredom transformed into something like disgust. Guy with a custom plate? Young hotshot who tips me $5 at Christmas like he's doing me a favor. That's him. The guard straightened up, looking toward Jake's car with new eyes. Huh. Well, that's a damn shame. You know, I was about to take my break. Gonna grab coffee from that place down the street. Takes me about, 20 minutes usually. He met Sarah's gaze in the mirror. Course, if anything happened to any vehicles while I was gone, I'd have to report it. But this old camera system. He gestured toward the broken security camera hanging uselessly above us. Been meaning to get that fixed for months. My mouth went dry. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I need coffee. What you ladies do with your time is your business. He walked away, whistling. Sarah and I stared at each other. Holy shit, she breathed. Even the security guard hates him. I thought about that $5 Christmas tip, so perfectly Jake. Generous enough to seem decent, cheap enough to reveal his true character. How many people had he alienated with his casual cruelty? We have 20 minutes, Sarah said. I looked at the BMW again. At the vanity plate. At the car that represented everything wrong with my brother, his selfishness, his entitlement, his complete inability to see other people as anything more than resources to exploit. The sledgehammer felt lighter in my hands. Fuck it, I said, popping open my door. Let's demolish something. Sarah smiled for the first time in weeks. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who'd finally found a way to balance the scales. We walked toward the BMW like we owned the place. Maybe, for the next 18 minutes, we did. The first swing was supposed to be cathartic. Instead, the sledgehammer bounced off the BMW's hood with a metallic clang that echoed through the entire parking garage like a church bell. The impact vibrated up through my arms, rattling my teeth, and left nothing but a small dent the size of a quarter. Jesus, I gasped, staring at the pathetic damage. This thing is built like a tank. Sarah grabbed the crowbar from her trunk. German engineering. Jake wouldn't shut up about it. Superior craftsmanship, he said. Investment quality. She jammed the crowbar under the BMW's side mirror and leveraged it off with a satisfying crack. The mirror hit the concrete and shattered, sending glass skittering across the parking garage floor. Okay, that felt better. I hefted the sledgehammer again, this time aiming for the passenger side window. The safety glass spiderwebbed on impact but didn't break through. Another swing, and it finally gave way, cascading into the car's pristine interior in a million glittering pieces. 12 minutes, Sarah called out, checking her phone while she worked on the other side mirror. That's when we heard the footsteps. Shit. I dropped behind the BMW, sledgehammer clutched against my chest. Sarah dove down beside me, crowbar still in her hands. The footsteps were coming from the stairwell, echoing off concrete in a steady rhythm. Not hurried, not suspicious, but definitely getting closer. Through the gap under the car, I could see worn sneakers and the cuffs of dark jeans. Is that Jake? Sarah whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear her. I pulled out my phone and checked his location. Still at work, 23 miles away. But the footsteps were getting closer, and whoever it was would round the BMW in about 10 seconds. Stay down, I mouthed. The sneaker stopped right beside the car. I held my breath, counting heartbeats. 1, 2, 3. Holy shit, what happened here? The voice was young, male, unfamiliar. Not Jake. I risked a glance around the bumper and saw a guy about 20, college-aged, staring at our handiwork with his mouth hanging open. He was holding car keys, probably heading to his own vehicle. Should I call security? He said to himself, pulling out his phone. That's when Sarah stood up. Don't, she said simply. The kid jumped backward, nearly dropping his keys. What the hell? Were you hiding behind that car? This car, Sarah said, gesturing at the BMW with her crowbar, was purchased with money stolen from me. I'm just taking back what's mine. The college kid looked between Sarah, the crowbar, the damaged car, and me slowly rising from my crouch with a sledgehammer in my hands. His expression went through about 5 different emotions in 3 seconds. Stolen money? He asked. My ex cleaned out our joint savings account and bought this car for his side piece, Sarah explained matter-of-factly. Police said it was technically legal. So I'm pursuing technical justice. The kid processed this. That's actually pretty fucked up. Very fucked up, I agreed. He looked at the BMW again, taking in the broken windows and missing mirrors. You know what? I didn't see anything. You sure? Sarah asked. My ex keyed my car last semester and then posted about it on TikTok. Got 3 million views. He shrugged. Karma's a bitch. The kid walked away, disappearing into the stairwell. A few seconds later, we heard a car engine start on the level below us. 8 minutes, Sarah said, checking her phone again. I looked at the BMW. We'd barely scratched the surface, and I was already exhausted. The sledgehammer felt like it weighed 50 pounds. This is taking too long, I said. That's when Sarah smiled and pulled out the spray paint. Then let's get creative. The spray paint hissed as Sarah shook the can, the little metal ball rattling inside like a promise. She bought 3 colors, red, black, and what the label optimistically called electric yellow. What should we write? She asked, testing a stream of red paint on the concrete beside the BMW. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Text message. From Jake. Getting off early today. Boss is in a good mood. Might take Madison car shopping, she deserves something nice too. Face blowing a kiss. My blood turned to ice water. Sarah. We need to go. Now. What? Why? She was already starting to spray paint something across the BMW's rear windshield. Jake's leaving work early. He's coming here. The spray paint can clatter to the ground, leaving a red streak across the concrete. How early? I checked the timestamp. The message was from 3 minutes ago. I don't know, but if he left right when he sent this. 20 minutes, Sarah finished, her face pale. Maybe 15 with the way he drives. We stared at each other over the partially destroyed BMW. 1 broken window, 2 missing mirrors, a handful of dents, and the beginnings of what looked like it might have been the word thief in red letters across the back. We could run, I said. Like hell. Sarah picked up the spray paint can. I've been planning this for 2 weeks. I'm not walking away because your brother decided to play hooky. Sarah, if he catches us here. What's he going to do? Call the police? With what evidence? Tell them his sister and his ex-girlfriend damaged the car he bought with stolen money? She resumed spraying, her movements quick and angry. Let him try. I wanted to argue, but she had a point. Jake's entire life was built on maintaining his image. Getting the police involved would mean questions, investigations, publicity. All the things he'd avoided when Sarah tried to report the theft. Still, my hands were shaking as I raised the sledgehammer again. This time I aimed for the headlights. The expensive LED array exploded in a shower of plastic and glass, leaving jagged edges that caught the garage's fluorescent lighting like broken teeth. Other side, Sarah called out, finishing thief and liar in red letters across the trunk. I circled around and took out the second headlight. The satisfying crunch of expensive electronics giving way to blunt force was almost enough to calm my nerves. Almost. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Jake, traffic's light today. Should be home in 10 to grab something, then picking up Madison. Shit. I showed Sarah the message. She read it and went completely still. Home? He's going to his apartment first? Looks like it. Sarah's apartment was 6 blocks from Jake's. The parking garage was directly between them. If he was coming home first, he'd drive right past us. New plan, Sarah said, grabbing the crowbar. We finish this now, or we don't finish it at all. She jammed the crowbar into the BMW's front grille and started prying off chunks of plastic and metal. I joined her, swinging the sledgehammer at anything that looked expensive. The side panels. The door handles. The stupid vanity plate that bent but wouldn't break completely. The destruction felt different now. Desperate. Frantic. Less like justice and more like vandalism, which I guess it always had been. But seeing those text messages, knowing Jake was planning to spend even more of Sarah's money on his new girlfriend. My next swing put a spider web crack across the entire windshield. 6 minutes, Sarah panted, checking her phone with paint-stained fingers. That's when we heard the car engine coming up the garage ramp. The sound echoed off the concrete walls, amplified and distorted, but unmistakable. Someone was driving into the garage. Fast. Sarah and I froze, tools in hand, surrounded by broken glass and automotive carnage. The engine sound was getting closer. And it sounded exactly like Jake's driving, aggressive, impatient, and heading straight for Section B. The engine sound grew louder, echoing off the concrete like thunder. Sarah and I stood frozen beside the destroyed BMW, still holding our weapons like the world's worst criminals caught in the act. Is that him? Sarah whispered, her knuckles wide around the crowbar. I strained to listen. The engine had a deep, throaty growl, definitely not Jake's BMW, since we'd just demolished it. But it was coming from the right direction, moving fast up the ramp toward our level. I don't know, I said, gripping the sledgehammer tighter. But we need to hide. Now. We scrambled toward the concrete pillar behind Jake's parking space, dragging our tools with us. The spray paint rolled across the floor, leaving a trail of red droplets like breadcrumbs leading straight to our hiding spot. The car rounded the corner, and my heart nearly stopped. It was a silver Porsche. Expensive, sleek, and definitely not Jake's style. But I recognized the driver immediately through the windshield, Madison, Jake's new girlfriend. The same blonde from all his Instagram posts, the one he'd been lavishing with Sarah's money. She pulled into a space 3 spots away from Jake's BMW, engine purring to a stop. For a moment, she just sat there, checking her makeup in the rearview mirror, completely oblivious to the destruction 10 feet away from her. Then she got out of the car. Madison was exactly what I'd expected from Jake's social media, tall, polished, wearing clothes that probably cost more than Sarah's monthly rent. She moved with the casual confidence of someone who'd never had to worry about money, never had to choose between groceries and gas. She was also walking directly toward Jake's BMW. Shit, Sarah breathed beside me. She's going to see. Madison's scream cut through the parking garage like a siren. What the fuck, she shrieked, staring at the demolished car. Jake. Jake, someone destroyed your car. She pulled out her phone, fingers flying over the screen. Probably calling Jake, or posting to Instagram, or both. Her voice echoed off the concrete walls as she circled the BMW, documenting every dent, every broken window, every spray-painted insult. This is insane, she was saying to someone on the phone. It's completely trashed. The windows, the mirrors, someone wrote all over it. Yes, I'm at your parking garage. No, I don't see anyone, but they can't have gone far. My phone buzzed with a text. Jake again, almost there, babe. Can't wait to see you smiling face with hard eyes. He was still coming. And now Madison was here, acting as his early warning system, making enough noise to wake the dead. If anyone else in the garage hadn't noticed us before, they definitely would now. We have to run, I whispered to Sarah. But Sarah wasn't looking at me. She was staring at Madison with an expression I'd never seen before, cold, calculating, and completely furious. Madison was examining the spray-painted words on the trunk, reading thief and liar out loud to whoever she was talking to. That bitch is wearing my necklace, Sarah said quietly. I followed her gaze. Madison was indeed wearing a delicate gold necklace, the kind that caught the light when she moved. It looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. My grandmother's necklace, Sarah continued, her voice deadly calm. I had to pawn it last week to make rent. Jake must have bought it back for her. Madison ended her phone call and started taking pictures of the BMW, posing beside it like she was documenting a crime scene. Or maybe creating content for social media. With people like Madison, it was hard to tell the difference. That's when Sarah stood up. Sarah, no, I hissed, grabbing for her arm. But she was already walking toward Madison, crowbar still in her hand, moving with the purposeful stride of someone who'd finally reached her breaking point. Madison looked up from her phone just as Sarah emerged from behind the concrete pillar. Oh, Madison said, blinking in confusion. Hi. Do you know what happened to this car? Sarah smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Actually, she said, raising the crowbar, I do. Madison's face went through several expressions in rapid succession, confusion, recognition, then pure terror as she registered the crowbar in Sarah's hands. You're Sarah, she said, backing against Jake's destroyed BMW. Jake told me about you. I'll bet he did. Sarah advanced slowly, her voice eerily calm. What exactly did he tell you? That I was crazy? Obsessive? That I couldn't let go? Madison's eyes darted toward her Porsche, calculating distance. He said you were having trouble moving on. That you'd been unstable since the breakup. I scrambled out from behind the pillar, sledgehammer forgotten. This was spiraling out of control fast. Sarah, we need to leave. Now. But Sarah ignored me, focused entirely on Madison like a laser. Did he tell you how he paid for that necklace you're wearing? My grandmother's necklace? Madison's hand flew to her throat, fingers closing protectively around the gold chain. This was a gift. Jake bought it for me. With money he stole from me. After I had to pawn it to pay rent. Sarah was close enough now that Madison could probably smell her rage. Everything you're wearing, everything he's bought you, it all came from my savings account. That's not. Jake said. Madison stammered, but something in her expression shifted. A flicker of doubt. Let me guess, Sarah continued. He told you he got a promotion at work? A bonus? An inheritance? Which lie did he sell you? Madison didn't answer, but her silence said everything. That's when I heard it, another car engine coming up the ramp. This one I recognized immediately. Jake's driving style was unmistakable, all aggressive acceleration and sudden stops. He was maybe 30 seconds away from discovering this entire nightmare. Both of you, listen to me, I said urgently. Jake is almost here. Madison, you need to get in your car and drive away. Sarah, we need to run. Right fucking now. But neither woman moved. They were locked in some kind of standoff, two sides of my brother's destructive pattern finally meeting face to face. The police are already on their way, Madison said, trying to regain some authority. I called them after I called Jake. My blood turned to ice. You called the police? Of course I called the police. Someone destroyed a car. Madison gestured at the BMW like it was a crime against humanity. Sarah laughed, sharp and bitter. Perfect. When they get here, I'll show them the bank statements. The texts. All the evidence of how your boyfriend funded his new lifestyle. The sound of Jake's car was getting closer now. I could hear him taking the turns too fast, tires squealing against concrete. In about 10 seconds, he was going to round the corner and find his ex-girlfriend threatening his new girlfriend with a crowbar next to his demolished car. With the police on their way. This is insane, I muttered, running my hands through my hair. This is completely insane. Madison must have heard the panic in my voice because she suddenly looked less confident. Wait, you're his sister, aren't you? Jake showed me pictures. Why are you helping her? Because your boyfriend is a sociopathic asshole who destroys everyone he touches, I snapped. The car engine was right below us now. Jake had reached our level. Sarah, I said desperately. Whatever you're thinking of doing to her, don't. She's not the real problem here. Sarah looked at me, then at Madison, then at the crowbar in her hands. For a moment, I thought she might actually listen. Then Jake's voice echoed through the parking garage. What the fuck happened to my car? He'd found us. Jake's voice reverberated through the concrete like a gunshot, and suddenly everything happened at once. Sarah spun toward the sound, crowbar raised. Madison screamed and dove behind her Porsche. I dropped the sledgehammer with a clang that echoed through the entire garage. And Jake came around the corner at a dead sprint. You, he roared, pointing at Sarah. You psychotic bitch. He looked exactly like I remembered from our childhood tantrums, face red, eyes wild, that vein in his forehead pulsing with rage. Except now he was 6'2" and charging at his ex-girlfriend who was holding a crowbar. Jake, stop. I stepped between them, hands up. Just stop and think for a second. Think? He shoved past me like I weighed nothing. She destroyed my fucking car. Look at it. Look at what she did. With what money, Jake? Sarah's voice cut through his shouting like ice. Tell Madison where you got the money for that car. Jake stopped short, his rage flickering for just a moment. His eyes darted between Sarah, Madison peeking out from behind the Porsche, and me standing there like the world's worst mediator. That's ancient history, he said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. Ancient history? Sarah laughed, bitter and sharp. It's been 6 weeks. 6 weeks since you emptied my account and disappeared. Madison straightened up slowly. Jake? What is she talking about? Don't listen to her, babe. She's literally insane. This is exactly what I told you about. Jake gestured at the destroyed BMW like it proved his point. Look what she did. Who else would do something like this? Someone whose life savings got stolen, I said quietly. Jake whirled on me, his expression shifting to something uglier. ET2, big sister? Taking the side of my psycho ex over your own family? Family doesn't steal from people who trust them. I didn't steal anything. The account was joint. Everything I did was completely legal. Legal and right aren't the same thing, Sarah said, stepping forward with a crowbar. You know what else is legal? Destroying property that was purchased with my money. That's when we heard the sirens. Madison's call to the police hadn't been an idle threat. The sound was distant but getting closer, that distinctive wail echoing off the surrounding buildings. Maybe 2 minutes away, maybe less. Jake's face went white. Police? You called the fucking police? Madison called them, I said, watching his panic with grim satisfaction. Before she knew about your theft. Madison looked stricken. I didn't know. Jake, you never told me. There's nothing to tell. But Jake was backing away now, running calculations behind his eyes. Police meant questions. Questions meant investigations. Investigations meant his carefully constructed lies falling apart. Actually, Sarah said, pulling out her phone, there's quite a bit to tell. Bank statements, text messages, photos of receipts. I've been documenting everything for weeks. The sirens were definitely getting closer now. Jake kept looking toward the garage exit like he was considering making a run for it. But his car was demolished, Madison's Porsche was blocked by all of us, and running from the scene would only make him look more guilty. This is fucked, he muttered, pacing back and forth. This is completely fucked. Welcome to consequences, Sarah said sweetly. I know it's a new concept for you. Madison finally found her voice. Jake, just tell me the truth. Did you take her money? It's complicated, Madison. You don't understand the situation. Try me. Jake looked at her, then at Sarah with her evidence folder and crowbar, then at the approaching sirens. His whole perfectly constructed world was crumbling in real time, and for the first time in his life, he couldn't charm his way out of it. I can explain everything, he said desperately. Then start explaining, Sarah said, just as the first police car turned into the garage. The first police car pulled into the garage like it owned the place, red and blue lights painting the concrete walls in shifting colors. 2 officers got out, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a younger guy who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Someone called about vandalism? The female officer asked, surveying the scene. Her gaze moved from the destroyed BMW to Sarah with her crowbar to Jake's panicked expression to Madison cowering behind the Porsche. Yes, officer, Madison started, stepping forward. Someone destroyed my boyfriend's car. Actually, Sarah interrupted, I destroyed the car that was purchased with money stolen from me. The younger officer sighed and pulled out a notepad. Okay, let's start over. Who owns the vehicle? I do, Jake said quickly. It's registered in my name. This woman is my unstable ex-girlfriend who. Show them the bank statements, I said to Sarah. Jake's head snapped toward me. What the fuck, Emma? Whose side are you on? The side that isn't completely morally bankrupt. The female officer held up a hand. Everyone needs to calm down. Sir, what's your name? Jake Morrison. This is my car, my parking spot. I just got here and found it destroyed. And you are? She looked at Sarah. Sarah Chen. And this car was purchased with $18,000 that he stole from our joint savings account after he told me he was borrowing it for a work emergency. The officer's eyebrows rose slightly. You have documentation of this? Sarah held up her manila folder. Bank statements, text messages, photos of him bragging about manipulating me. Everything. That's private communication. Jake protested. She can't just. If someone steals from you, you absolutely can document it, the younger officer said dryly. He looked like he'd handled domestic disputes before. Madison had gone very quiet behind the Porsche. I watched her face as the reality of Jake's character began sinking in. The doubt that had flickered earlier was growing stronger. Jake, she said slowly, you told me you got that money from a work bonus. I did. I mean, it's complicated. The account was joint, so technically you're a lying piece of shit, Sarah finished. Ma'am, please watch your language, the female officer said, but without much conviction. She was flipping through Sarah's documentation, and her expression was getting more interested by the page. That's when my phone rang. Don't answer it, Jake said immediately. I looked at the screen. Mom. Why not? The younger officer asked. Because our parents think Jake's some kind of golden child, I explained. They have no idea what he really is. Emma, please, Jake's voice had shifted to desperate now. Don't drag Mom and Dad into this. But I was thinking about Sarah's empty apartment, about her working double shifts to replace the money Jake had stolen, about all the other girlfriends who'd come before her with similar stories of betrayal and financial abuse. I answered the phone. Hi, Mom. Emma. I just saw Jake's Instagram story about his car being vandalized. Is everyone okay? Do they know who did it? The parking garage went dead silent. Even the police officers looked curious about what I'd say next. Actually, Mom, we know exactly who did it. And you're going to want to sit down for this conversation. What do you mean? Emma, you're scaring me. I looked at Jake's horrified expression, at Sarah's determined stance, at Madison finally seeing her boyfriend clearly for the first time. Mom, I need to tell you some things about Jake that you're not going to want to hear. Jake lunged for my phone, but the younger officer stepped between us. Let her finish the call, sir. Emma, don't, Jake pleaded. Please. I can fix this. I can pay her back. Don't ruin everything. But everything was already ruined. Had been ruined the moment he decided other people's trust was something he could exploit. Mom, I said into the phone, your golden boy just got caught stealing $18,000 from his girlfriend. The silence in the parking garage after I said those words was deafening. Even Mom went quiet on the other end of the phone, the kind of stunned silence that meant her world was reshaping itself in real time. Emma, she finally said, her voice small and confused, what are you talking about? Jake was shaking his head frantically, mouthing please at me like his life depended on it. Which, in a way, it did. Our parents had been sending him money for months, believing his stories about temporary setbacks and investment opportunities. If they knew the truth. Jake has been systematically stealing from his girlfriends, I said, watching his face crumble. Sarah has $18,000 in documentation proving it. That's impossible. Jake would never, he's been doing so well lately. The promotion, the new apartment. All paid for with stolen money, Mom. The female officer was still reading through Sarah's evidence, occasionally making notes. She looked up at Jake with the expression cops probably reserved for particularly stupid criminals. Mr. Morrison, these bank statements show a pattern of large withdrawals from an account with Ms. Chen's name on it, all within a 2-week period before you purchased this vehicle. The account was joint, Jake said weakly. Everything I did was legal. Legal doesn't mean not theft, the officer replied. Especially when there's evidence of premeditation and deception. Madison had moved closer, reading over the officer's shoulder. I watched her face change as she saw the text messages Sarah had screenshotted, Jake bragging to his friends about managing his pathetic girlfriend and planning to drain her dry before the breakup. Oh my God, Madison whispered. Jake, these texts, you called her pathetic. You planned this. Babe, you don't understand the context. The context is that you're exactly what she said you are. Madison's voice was getting stronger, angrier. A lying, manipulative thief. That's when Jake completely lost it. Fuck all of you, he screamed, his composure finally shattering completely. You want to crucify me over some money? Sarah knew what she was getting into. She's not some innocent victim. Jake Morrison, Mom's voice came through my phone speaker, loud enough for everyone to hear. Is this true? Did you steal from that poor girl? The parking garage went silent again. Jake looked at my phone like it was a snake. Mom, I can explain. $18,000, Jake? From someone who trusted you? I could hear Dad in the background asking what was happening, Mom filling him in with increasing horror in her voice. Jake was backing toward the garage wall like a cornered animal. This is insane, he muttered. This is fucking insane. One little mistake and everyone loses their minds. Little mistake? Sarah's voice was deadly calm. You destroyed my life for Instagram clout. The younger officer stepped forward. Mr. Morrison, given the evidence we're seeing here, we're going to need you to come to the station for questioning. Questioning? For what? I told you, everything I did was legal. Fraud isn't legal, sir. Neither is obtaining property under false pretenses. Jake's face went white. Fraud? You can't be serious. The text messages show clear intent to deceive, the female officer explained, holding up Sarah's phone. This one here, where you tell your friend you're going to clean out the account before she knows what hit her, that's evidence of criminal intent. Madison pulled out her own phone and started typing furiously. Probably warning other women in Jake's social circle, or maybe just documenting everything for her own protection. Either way, Jake's reputation was about to become a very public disaster. Emma, Mom's voice came through my phone again. Bring everyone home. Your father and I need to meet this Sarah woman. We need to make this right. Jake looked at me with something approaching terror. His perfect world was completely falling apart, and for the first time in his life, nobody was going to save him. Make this right? Jake's voice cracked on the words. Mom, you can't just. Jacob Morrison, you will be quiet. Mom's voice through my phone speaker had taken on that tone I remembered from childhood, the one that meant someone was about to get grounded for life. Emma, is Sarah there? Can she hear me? Sarah looked at my phone like it might bite her. Yes ma'am. Sarah, honey, I am so deeply sorry. We had no idea. Jake has been telling us he got promoted, that he was finally getting his life together. He's very good at lying, Sarah said quietly. That's when Dad's voice boomed through the speaker, loud enough to make everyone in the garage wince. $18,000? From his girlfriend? What the hell is wrong with you, Jake? Jake actually flinched. I'd never heard Dad use that tone before, not even when Jake crashed the family car in high school or got arrested for public intoxication in college. This was different. This was the voice of a man whose faith in his son had just been completely shattered. The female officer looked amused. Family conference call? His parents, I explained. They've been enabling him for years without realizing it. We have not been enabling, Mom started, then stopped. Oh God. The money we've been sending him for emergencies. How much of that was? Probably all of it, I said, watching Jake's face confirm my suspicions. Every sob story, every crisis, every time he needed help with rent or car payments or whatever. Madison had finished whatever she was typing and was now staring at Jake like she'd never seen him before. The night we met, she said slowly, you told me you were successful. Independent. You paid for that expensive dinner, took me to that rooftop bar. With my money, Sarah added helpfully. Jesus Christ. Madison ran her hands through her perfectly styled hair. I've been dating a con artist. Now you're being dramatic, Jake protested, but his voice lacked conviction. I'm not a con artist. I made some mistakes. $18,000 in mistakes, the younger officer said, still taking notes. Sir, we're going to need you to come with us. That's when the second police car arrived. The new cruiser parked behind the first one, and 2 more officers got out. Word was apparently spreading about whatever was happening in Section B of the parking garage. I could see other people starting to gather on the levels above and below us, drawn by the lights and commotion. Great, I muttered. Now it's a circus. One of the new officers was clearly a supervisor, older, more authoritative, the kind of cop who'd seen every possible form of human stupidity. He surveyed the scene with practiced eyes. What do we have here? He asked. Domestic situation involving financial fraud, the female officer explained, handing over Sarah's documentation. The victim has extensive evidence of premeditated theft. The supervisor flipped through the papers, his expression growing more serious. These text messages, planning to drain her dry, bragging about manipulation. He looked up at Jake. Son, you are in a world of trouble. It was a joint account. Jake said desperately. Everything I did was legal. Actually, the supervisor said, reading further, using a joint account to defraud your partner is still fraud. Especially when you can prove intent to deceive. He held up Sarah's phone. And you definitely proved intent. That's when my phone rang again. This time it wasn't Mom. It was our cousin Rebecca, the family gossip who somehow always knew everything before anyone else. Which meant. Oh no, I breathed, looking at the screen. Don't answer it, Jake said immediately. Why not? Madison asked. Because Rebecca knowing means the entire family knows, I explained. She probably saw Jake's Instagram story and started making calls. Jake's face went ashen. Emma, please. Don't make this worse than it already is. But as I stared at his panicked expression, I realized something. It was never going to get better until it got much, much worse. Jake needed to face real consequences for once in his life. I answered the phone. Rebecca? Yeah, I'm here. You want to know what happened to Jake's car? Jake closed his eyes like he was in physical pain. Well, it's kind of a long story. The supervisor was still reading through Sarah's evidence when Rebecca's voice exploded through my phone speaker like a small bomb. Emma. I just got off the phone with Aunt Linda, who talked to your mom, who said something about Jake stealing money. And there are police? What in the holy hell is happening? I could see Jake physically shrinking with each word. The supervisor looked up from the documents with raised eyebrows. Family drama? He asked dryly. You have no idea, I replied, then spoke into the phone. Rebecca, Jake stole $18,000 from his girlfriend and bought a car with it. Sarah destroyed the car. The police are here. Mom and Dad are having a breakdown. And Jake's about to get arrested. The silence on the other end lasted exactly 3 seconds. Oh my God, I knew it. Rebecca shrieked. I fucking knew something was off about his whole success story. Nobody goes from loser to luxury car owner in 6 months without something shady happening. Madison winced at the volume. Jesus, is she always this loud? Always, I confirmed. Emma, Rebecca continued at maximum volume. I am literally in my car right now driving over there. Do not let them take him away before I get there. I need to see this train wreck in person. Rebecca, no, I started, but she'd already hung up. Jake looked like he might vomit. Please tell me she's not actually coming here. Oh, she's coming, I said. And you know what happens when Rebecca shows up somewhere? The supervisor looked between us, clearly sensing there was more to the story. What happens when Rebecca shows up? She lip tweets everything, Madison said, having met Rebecca at one of Jake's family gatherings. She has like 15,000 followers who are obsessed with family drama. Jake went from pale to green. She's going to put this on social media? Brother, I said, your entire life is about to become a very public cautionary tale. That's when Sarah started laughing. Not the bitter, angry laugh from before, but genuine amusement at the absurdity of watching Jake's perfect image crumble in real time. What's funny? The female officer asked. He's more worried about his reputation than about being arrested, Sarah explained, wiping tears from her eyes. Even now, facing fraud charges, he's thinking about his Instagram engagement. That's not true, Jake protested weakly. Really? Then delete your social media, Sarah challenged. Right now. Show everyone that you actually feel bad about what you did instead of just worrying about how it looks. Jake clutched his phone protectively. That's not. I can't just delete everything. I have sponsors, partnerships. Partnerships built on money you stole from me, Sarah pointed out. The supervisor cleared his throat. Mr. Morrison, we need to continue this conversation at the station. You have the right to remain silent. Wait. Jake looked around frantically, like he was searching for someone to save him. I can pay her back. Sarah, I can get you the money. We don't need to involve the police. Where are you going to get $18,000? Sarah asked. I can. I'll figure it out. Sell some stuff. Ask my parents for a loan. You mean ask your parents to pay for your theft? I said incredulously. It's not theft if I pay it back. The younger officer shook his head. Sir, that's not how the law works. That's when another car roared up the garage ramp, music blasting. I recognized the sound immediately, Rebecca's ancient Jeep with its broken muffler and tendency to backfire. Oh God, Jake moaned. She's here. Rebecca's Jeep screeched to a stop behind the police cars, blocking any potential escape route. She jumped out wearing pajama pants, flip-flops, and a tank top that read Chaos Coordinator in glittery letters. Where is he? She yelled, phone already in her hand. Where's the family disappointment? The supervisor looked at me. Is this going to get worse? Before I could answer, Rebecca spotted the destroyed BMW and let out a shriek that probably shattered windows in the next building. Holy shit, Sarah. You absolutely demolished that thing. This is amazing. She was already taking pictures, live streaming to her followers. Guys, you are not going to believe what's happening right now. My cousin Jake, you know, the one I always said was sketchy, just got caught stealing from his girlfriend. Rebecca. Jake pleaded. Please don't. Oh, I'm absolutely doing this, Rebecca said, spinning the camera around to show Jake in handcuffs. This is the best family drama we've had since Uncle Terry got arrested for tax evasion. The supervisor sighed deeply. Ma'am, you can't interfere with police business. I'm not interfering, officer. I'm documenting. Rebecca grinned at him. This is going to be trending in an hour. Jake's phone started buzzing with notifications. Then buzzing faster. Then basically vibrating itself across the concrete floor as his social media exploded with comments from Rebecca's livestream. His perfect, curated life was being destroyed in real time, broadcast to thousands of strangers who were probably screenshotting everything for posterity. Emma, he said desperately, make her stop. I looked at my brother, really looked at him. 3 hours ago, he'd been untouchable, convinced he could charm his way out of any consequences. Now he was in handcuffs, his reputation in ruins, facing fraud charges. No, I said simply. You made this mess, Jake. You can live with it. The supervisor started reading him his rights again while Rebecca provided live commentary to her growing audience. And for the first time in my life, I felt like justice might actually be possible. The notifications on Jake's phone were coming so fast now that the screen looked like a slot machine. Rebecca's livestream had clearly hit some kind of viral tipping point, and I could see the view counter climbing in real time, 2,000 watching, then 3,000, then 5,000. This is fucking insane, Jake muttered, watching his digital destruction unfold. Rebecca, please. Oh no, cousin, Rebecca said, adjusting her phone angle to get both Jake in handcuffs and the demolished BMW in frame. You don't get to please your way out of this one. Chat is going wild right now. Sarah, they want to know where you got the sledgehammer. Home Depot, Sarah said helpfully, still holding the crowbar like a trophy. The supervisor looked like he was developing a migraine. Ma'am, we really need to wrap this up. Mr. Morrison needs to come with us, and this parking garage is becoming a public disturbance. That's when Madison's phone rang. She looked at the screen and went pale. It's my mom. Don't answer it, Jake said immediately. Why not? Madison asked, but she was already starting to look suspicious. Because, I said, putting the pieces together, you probably don't know that Jake's been posting about you on social media for weeks. And if your mom is calling right now. Madison answered the call despite Jake's frantic head shaking. Hi, Mom, she said cautiously. Whatever her mother said made Madison's face transform from confusion to absolute horror. What do you mean all over the internet? Madison asked. What posts? I watched Jake realize he'd made yet another catastrophic mistake. In his rush to show off his new girlfriend and his stolen money lifestyle, he'd apparently forgotten that Madison might have family members who could see his social media. Mom, slow down. What do you mean he's been posting pictures of me without permission? Madison's voice was getting higher, more panicked. What kind of pictures? The supervisor cleared his throat. Mr. Morrison, we really need to. That's when 3 more cars pulled into the parking garage. Not police cars. Not family members. News vans. Oh, come the fuck on, I breathed, watching reporters pile out with cameras and microphones. Rebecca's livestream had apparently caught the attention of local news outlets, who had probably been monitoring social media for viral content. Nothing like a good destruction of property story with family drama and financial fraud to fill the evening news cycle. This is a nightmare, the supervisor said, calling for backup on his radio. We've got media on scene, civilians everywhere, and a suspect who needs to be processed. Sarah, one of the reporters called out, having clearly done their research on the way over. Sarah Chen. Channel 7 News. Can you comment on why you chose to destroy your ex-boyfriend's vehicle? Sarah looked at the camera, then at the microphone being shoved in her face, then at Jake who was literally trying to hide behind the police officers. He stole $18,000 from me, she said clearly, her voice carrying across the parking garage. When the police said it was technically legal, I decided to pursue technically legal revenge. The reporter's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. This was exactly the kind of soundbite that would play on loop for days. And you, sir, another reporter called to Jake, do you have any response to allegations of financial fraud? Jake opened his mouth, probably to deny everything or blame Sarah again, but the supervisor cut him off. The suspect will not be making any statements at this time, he said firmly, steering Jake toward one of the police cars. That's when my phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. But when I answered, the voice was familiar, Jake's boss from the sales job he'd supposedly been promoted at. Emma Morrison? This is David Rodriguez from Pinnacle Sales Solutions. I'm calling about your brother Jake. I felt my stomach drop. Oh. Hi, Mr. Rodriguez. I just saw a news report about Jake being arrested for fraud. And I need to tell you something important. Jake had stopped struggling against the police officers and was staring at my phone with pure terror. Jake was fired 3 months ago, his boss said loud enough for everyone to hear. For sexual harassment and falsifying expense reports. There was no promotion. No bonus. We were actually considering pressing charges ourselves. The parking garage went completely silent except for the sound of Rebecca's followers absolutely losing their minds in her comment section. Jake's last lie had just crumbled on live television. And judging by the reporters' expressions, this story was about to get much, much bigger. The reporters swarmed like sharks who just smelled blood in the water. Jake's boss had unknowingly delivered the perfect sound bite to live television, and I could practically see the news headlines writing themselves in real time. Mr. Morrison, one of the reporters called out, can you respond to allegations that you've been unemployed for 3 months while defrauding your girlfriend? Jake looked like he was about to pass out. The supervisor was trying to get him into the police car, but the media circus was making it impossible to move without creating more spectacle. That's when Sarah's phone rang. She looked at the screen and frowned. It's my landlord. Don't answer it, I said automatically, because at this point every phone call seemed to bring fresh disaster. But Sarah was already swiping to accept. Hello, Mr. Peterson? Whatever her landlord said made Sarah's face light up with the first genuine smile I'd seen from her all day. Are you serious? She said into the phone. The news? Which channel? She listened for a moment, then looked up at all of us with an expression of pure disbelief. My landlord just saw the news story, she announced. He's waiving my back rent and letting me stay in the apartment. Apparently, his daughter went through something similar with an ex-boyfriend, and he wants to help. That's wonderful, Madison said, and she actually seemed to mean it. Which was surprising, considering she'd started this day as Jake's girlfriend and was ending it as his victim. Jake made us sound like a wounded animal. This is insane. This is completely insane. One mistake and everyone acts like I'm some kind of monster. One mistake? Rebecca spun around with her phone still live streaming. Guys, he's calling $18,000 in theft one mistake. The audacity is absolutely sending me. The comment section on her stream was moving so fast it was basically unreadable, but I could make out fragments, jail him, justice for Sarah, toxic masculinity at its finest. That's when Madison's phone started buzzing with notifications. She looked at the screen and her face went white. Oh my god, she whispered. People are commenting on my Instagram. Hundreds of comments. She scrolled through them, her expression getting more horrified by the second. They found all the pictures Jake posted of me. People are asking if I knew about the theft, if I helped him spend the money. Madison, I said gently, you need to make a statement. Distance yourself from this before it gets worse. How? She asked, looking genuinely lost. I've been posting about our dates, our trips, all the expensive restaurants. People are going to think I was in on it. Tell the truth, Sarah suggested. That you had no idea where the money came from. But I should have known, shouldn't I? All those expensive dates when he said he was just starting a new job? The designer clothes, the fancy car. I was so stupid. You weren't stupid, I said firmly. You were conned. There's a difference. Jake was finally in the police car, but he could still hear everything through the open window. Madison, babe, please don't listen to them. We can work this out. Madison looked at him for a long moment, then pulled out her phone and started recording. Hi everyone, she said, her voice steady despite everything. My name is Madison Torres, and I need to address some things that are coming to light about Jake Morrison. Jake's face pressed against the car window in panic. Madison, don't. I had no knowledge of any financial fraud, she continued, speaking directly to her phone camera. I was told that Jake had received a work promotion and bonus. I now realize I was being manipulated and lied to, just like Sarah was. The reporters were recording her impromptu statement, and Rebecca was practically bouncing with excitement as her viewer count hit 10,000. Furthermore, Madison said, her voice getting stronger, Jake posted photos of me on his social media without my consent, and I'll be pursuing legal action to have them removed. That's when my phone rang one more time. The caller ID just said Mom, but when I answered, it wasn't Mom's voice. It was Dad. And he sounded absolutely furious. Emma, put that son of a bitch on the phone. Now. Dad's voice through my phone was something I'd never heard before, cold, controlled fury that made everyone in the parking garage go quiet. Even the reporters seemed to sense they were about to witness something significant. Dad, he's in a police car, I said carefully. He can't really. Then you tell him what I'm about to say, Dad interrupted. Your mother is upstairs right now, crying her eyes out because she just realized we've been funding his theft for months. Every emergency loan, every temporary setback, our money went to destroying that poor girl's life. Jake pressed his face against the car window, shaking his head frantically. We're cutting him off completely, Dad continued, his voice carrying across the entire garage. Bank accounts, credit cards, car insurance, health insurance, everything. He wants to be a criminal? He can figure out how to survive like one. Rebecca's livestream viewer count hit 15,000. The reporters were frantically taking notes. And Jake looked like he was about to hyperventilate. Dad, I said gently, maybe this isn't the best time. No, Emma. This is exactly the time. We raised him better than this, and if he chooses to be a predator, he doesn't get to do it with our support. That's when something unexpected happened. One of the reporters, a young woman who'd been quiet until now, stepped forward. Mr. Morrison, she called toward the police car. I'm Jessica Chung from Channel 12. I need you to know something. Jake looked up through the window, probably hoping for a sympathetic voice in the chaos. Sarah isn't your only victim, Jessica said, consulting her notes. We've been getting calls for the past hour from other women who say you used similar tactics on them. There's a pattern here. The parking garage went dead silent except for the sound of Rebecca's followers absolutely losing their minds in the comments. What do you mean other women? Sarah asked, though her voice suggested she wasn't entirely surprised. 3 so far, Jessica replied. All with similar stories, joint accounts, sudden disappearances, financial manipulation. One woman says you took $12,000 from her last year. Jake's face had gone completely white. Madison stared at him through the car window like she was seeing a stranger. Oh my God, Madison whispered. You're a serial predator. That's not. I can explain. Jake's voice was muffled through the glass, but his panic was crystal clear. Actually, Sarah said, pulling out her phone again, I've been in contact with some of his other ex-girlfriends since this started. We have a group chat now. She held up her screen showing a conversation thread with multiple participants. Jenny, Ashley, and Meredith. Turns out Jake has been running the same con for years. The supervisor, who had been trying to manage the media circus, suddenly looked much more interested. Ma'am, we're going to need to speak with those other women. They're already on their way here, Sarah said with grim satisfaction. Jenny's driving up from Portland. She wants to press charges too. Jake slammed his hands against the car window. This is entrapment. You can't just coordinate against me. Actually, one of the officers said dryly, victims sharing information isn't entrapment. It's called evidence gathering. That's when 3 more cars pulled into the parking garage, not media this time, but regular vehicles with out-of-state plates. I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly who was arriving. Sarah, I said, watching women emerge from the cars with manila folders and grim expressions, please tell me those aren't. Jenny, Ashley, and Meredith, Sarah confirmed, waving at the approaching women. Jake's greatest hits collection. Rebecca's phone was practically smoking from the activity in her comment section. The news crews were setting up for what was clearly about to become a much bigger story. And Jake was trapped in a police car, watching his entire criminal history converge on a single parking garage while being broadcast live to thousands of people. His perfect life hadn't just collapsed, it had turned into a public reckoning years in the making. The convergence was beautiful in its inevitability. Jenny arrived first, tall, auburn-haired, carrying a banker's box that I suspected contained Jake's entire criminal history with her finances. Ashley came next, a small woman with fierce eyes and a manila folder thick enough to be a novel. Meredith brought up the rear, already on her phone with what sounded like a lawyer. Sarah. Jenny called out, striding past the news crews like they didn't exist. Girl, you actually did it. You destroyed that bastard's car. We destroyed it, I corrected, hefting the sledgehammer one more time. Team effort. Jake was pressed against the police car window like a trapped animal, watching his past victims organize themselves into what looked suspiciously like a prosecution team. The supervisor was taking notes frantically as the women compared stories, dates, dollar amounts. 12,000 from Jenny, Ashley was saying, consulting her records. 8,000 from me, 15 from Meredith, 18 from Sarah. That's $53,000 in documented theft. Over 3 years, Meredith added. Clear pattern of predatory behavior. Rebecca's livestream had hit 25,000 viewers. The comment section was moving so fast it looked like a waterfall of outrage and support. That's when my phone rang one final time. Emma? Mom's voice was shaky but determined. Your father and I have been talking. We want to cover Sarah's stolen money. I looked at Sarah, who had gone very still. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, we do. We raised him. We enabled him by believing his lies and sending money. This is our responsibility too. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, the first I'd seen that weren't from anger or frustration. Mrs. Morrison, I can't accept. You can and you will, Dad's voice came through the speaker. And we're going to make sure Jake pays us back every cent, even if he has to work minimum wage for the next decade. The supervisor approached the group of women with official paperwork. Ladies, we're looking at multiple felony fraud charges across state lines. This is going to be a federal case. Jake's muffled scream from the police car was barely audible, but his anguish was palpable. Madison finished her social media statement and walked over to Sarah. I'm sorry, she said simply. I should have known something was wrong. You couldn't have known, Sarah replied, then surprised everyone by hugging her. He's very good at what he does. Was very good, Jenny corrected with savage satisfaction. Pretty sure his con artist days are over. The news crews were packing up, having gotten enough footage to dominate the evening cycle. Rebecca was finally ending her livestream, promising her followers updates on the legal proceedings. As the police car finally pulled away with Jake inside, I realized something profound had happened in this parking garage. It wasn't just about destroying a car or getting revenge. It was about consequences finally catching up to someone who thought he was untouchable. Sarah stood beside the demolished BMW, Sledgehammer at her feet, surrounded by 3 other women who understood exactly what she'd been through. They were already making plans, legal strategies, support systems, ways to warn other potential victims. You know what? Sarah said, looking at the destroyed car one last time. I think I'm going to keep that sledgehammer. Just in case. Madison laughed, genuine, cathartic laughter. Can I get the number for your group chat? I have a feeling I'm going to need some support getting through this. Welcome to the Survivors Club, Ashley said with dark humor. We meet for drinks every time one of his appeals gets denied. As we all walked toward our cars, leaving the wreckage behind, I realized Jake had finally taught me something valuable. Sometimes the only way to stop a predator is to make sure all his victims find each other. And sometimes, justice really does come with a sledgehammer.